regarding that.
For that portion of the road, the portion that goes through our property, we're paying for, correct?
Yes, you are.
Yeah, the portion of that road that goes through our property, we're paying for, so.
Okay, thank you. That's my question. Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Enns?
Yeah, I was just wondering if, since you're gonna get the sales tax exemption, are most of the materials, or at least the majority of them, gonna be bought locally?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Ms. Hertzberger?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I voted no on this, just not because I wanted to be difficult, but which people accuse me of. And I don't have anything against the sports complex or senior housing or anything like that, or the developer. My concern is that we're expanding an enterprise zone in an area. Enterprise zones weren't meant to go into an area like this. They're slum and blight. They're meant to help areas that in any other instances would have trouble attracting development to them. And the more we expand our enterprise zones to areas that already have development, already are on an upswing, we're misusing our enterprise zones in our TIF districts. And this is, I think, what is it, Mike? You can only have 15% of your, is it 15%? For total enterprise zone, or
15 square miles.
15 square miles, and we're at 11 and a half. So we keep expanding in areas that already have development, already on an upswing, and one day we're going to need that for some other development, some other area, areas. I don't think it should be used for housing. We have the Home Builders Association and some other entities just had a big seminar on how we have all this housing in inventory right now, and now we're giving incentives to build more housing. It doesn't make any sense to me. And it's not fair to those people who already have those investments out there. So I just feel like we should be more careful in how we expand these enterprise zones and TIF districts and use them for what we really need to use them for. And so I voted no on this.
Mr. Tripp?
I'm on the other side of it. I'm on the other side.
Me too.
Just talk really loud.
I'm on the other side of this. I think it's a win-win. I see no problem to
No, we have one. We got some other discussion on that. Bernard?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mike, is this if I may address Mike, is this a gated community?
I'll defer that to the developers of the.
Thank you.
Not gated, but controlled access.
So similar to a gated community in principle.
There's similar, it's age restricted, so I don't know where you're headed.
Well, will there be like a guard shack?
No.
Or anything where somebody has to check in? Well, anyhow, I guess I have to agree with Karen on this. If you look at the purpose for enterprise zones, they were established to help blighted areas, struggling areas, to boost their economic output. And we're getting to the point where we're using tax dollars to subsidize upscale housing. I think we're making a mockery out of the whole concept of the enterprise zones. You drive 3 or 4 miles south and start looking at the board ups. This morning we heard 2 people talk under public comment about the people who need heating assistance, people who need mortgage assistance. We've got people that are facing foreclosure. And for us to sit here and think about, even though it's a relatively small amount, those are dollars that could go to help the needy in our community right now. I can think of many other ways to use that money besides assisting for an upscale development. The other thing to consider is that while we're doing this, the county faces higher fuel costs. We've got pension costs. This is not free. This is not free to the county. It does mean that the balloon's going to be squeezed elsewhere, as Shaky Martin used to say. And I just think we need to be really careful how we do this. I think we're setting a precedent where you're going to start having other builders come out of the woodwork and say, hey, we need this, we need that. And this is just not the right way to spend the money. We're setting a bad precedent, so I really can't support this at this time.
So this enterprise zone is a cooperative arrangement with 4 municipalities and the county, is that correct?
That's correct.
And the 4 communities, the 4 municipalities have approved participation or this amendment to the enterprise
Yes,
zone.
these similar resolutions have been passed by each of the other 4 municipalities.
And
This is the last one.
And municipalities have a bigger share, bigger stake in sales tax abatement, is that correct?
They possibly do.
Percentage-wise, it's
Well, 1%. We get
1% and we get a quarter. Thank you.
Any other questions, comments? Ms. Bernard?
Just wanted to point out, just because most people or most municipalities are supporting it, it doesn't mean it's right. Might does not make right.
Any other comments? Mr. Clucking?
Mr. Chairman, may I address Mr. Bennett?
Yes.
You asked, you quoted something about the property taxes. Can you reiterate that? I didn't quite understand it.
What we did was took a $200,000 estimated sales price and came up with what was the estimated property tax to be paid per unit at a 7.2% rate in the village of Bradley, and we estimated that to be $4,000. The county's portion of that property tax, which we thought was a good idea, that it'd be an investment into the future, you would be estimated to forego one time $187 to encourage the development, and for that investment we estimate that you would receive annually, okay, while you're seeking new revenues, annually you would receive $462 a year. That's our best estimate with the property tax information that we have.
Okay, thank you, sir. So then just to clarify that, you know, we forego this one-time investment on the sales tax, but in the long run, we're going to have more income coming in through the property tax when we develop units.
Right.
All right, thank you.
Mr. Hartsberger?
I'd like to ask Mr. Bennett, is that based on a senior citizen discount for those taxes and a homestead exemption? Senior citizen exemption?
I think that it is.
Do you think that it is? Is it or isn't it?
I didn't bring that worksheet with me, but the best estimate of the
Then why would it be?
Pardon?
24,000, what, you've got 6.
Yeah,
I'd like to see those calculations.
well,
I can.
go from my own.
Any other questions? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
46.
Opposed?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you.
Situation.
We're looking at it. We'll have a roll call vote on this.
Mr. Tripp?
Aye.
Mr. Washington?
Aye.
Mr. LaJess? Aye. Mr. Whitten?
Aye.
Mrs. Bernard?
Nay.
Mr. Marcotte?
Aye.
Mr. James?
Aye.
Mr. McLaren?
Aye.
Mr. Vickery?
Aye.
Ms. Hertzberger?
Nay.
Mr. Nicholas?
Aye.
Mr. Lear?
Aye.
Mr. Scholl?
Aye.
Mr. Hess?
Aye.
Mr. Bossert?
Aye.
Mrs. Campbell?
Aye.
Mr. Kolecki?
Aye.
Mrs. McBride? Mr. Yates?
Nay.
Mr. Enns?
Aye.
Mr. Wittes?
Aye.
Mrs. Wilson?
Aye.
Mr. Dolan?
Aye.
Mr. Cruz?
Aye. Motion passes 21-3. On to item 3, the recorder's union contract. That was taken to finance. I don't believe there was any action to come out of finance on that, so it's really basically here in front of you. The original contract was reviewed and there were some language changes put in. So we're looking for a recommendation from the county board as to how you would like to proceed with that contract.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Members of the board, some time ago, a tentative agreement was reached between the union representing the recorders, treasurers, and auditors employees. That tentative agreement was forwarded to the state's attorney's office for review. I sat down with my civil division as a group, and we reviewed the contract as it had been proposed. We made changes to the contract that were as to form only, not an alteration of the substance of the contract. And by that I mean, when we were done reviewing the contract, the proposed changes in no way changed the anticipated income of the employees or the benefits that would inure to the employees under the terms of the contract. I had spoken to the attorney who was representing the union at that attorney's request. He seemed to understand, gave me the impression that he understood the need to have a well-written and enforceable contract. After the changes were made, the contract was returned to the union. The union has asked that we present to you the original contract without the changes made by the state's attorney's office for approval. I, as your lawyer who have made the changes to the contract that I believe are necessary to have a legal contract that protects both you and the employees or both sides of the contract, recommend that either you, well, I guess my recommendation is that you reject the original contract. I won't ask you to vote in favor of a contract of the changes we've made. I had anticipated that the union would meet with us prior to today's meeting to go over that. Unfortunately, that hasn't been able to happen. But I anticipate that we have a tentative agreement. Now we're just apparently fighting over a few words. So I guess they would like you to take a vote on their original contract. If you do decide to vote on that today, my recommendation to you as your attorney is to reject the original terms of the tentative agreement, and we can deal with the rest of it later.
Are there any other questions? Ms. Bernard?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Could we get a copy of the contract? I don't have anything here in my packet. And then the changes made by the state's attorney so that we could take a look at these?
Yeah, we can do that. That's not a problem at all because we had copies for the finance committee. So, any other questions or comments? Mr. Washington?
My comment is this. When you set through union negotiation that I have several times, everything that's done in the contract, whether it's dotting an I or crossing a T or changing if to may, all of it is critical in the trust that's established between the negotiators, the union and the entity that's being involved in the negotiation. What the union is saying in essence today is that trust has been breached by the contract being rewritten in whatever form, whatever letters that have been placed in it, whatever words have been changed, that trust has been breached without the consent of the union.
Okay. Any other comments, questions? Mr. Vickery?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. When we examined this in finance, I found that the changes proposed by the state's attorney's office to be mere clarifications of language that were later could later create problems if those clarifications were not included. In fact, one word that was in there was not a word. We looked on Google and that word didn't exist. So I support a good contract, but I think it takes two sides to negotiate here, and I think we need to make sure that we don't create problems in the future with words or phrases that are not clear. Thank you.
Okay. Mr. James?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My feeling on this is that if they've got a problem with it, send it back to them, let them look at it. If they don't like it, bring it back. All they're doing is delaying the process. And we know where we're at, as far as I'm concerned, and what we're talking about, I think is correct. We're talking about dotting the I's and crossing the T's and making sure that interpretations of what words are there, everybody understands. Send it back to them, let them look at it, and let it go. That's my feeling on the thing. Thank you.
Mr. Shaw?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. In going over the tentative contract and the ones that were submitted by the State's Attorney's Office, really, I only saw one thing that I considered substantive change, and that is changing at least twice a year to specifically twice a year. But other than that, it was a matter of semantics and structural changes. But I am concerned with that one change outside of the collective bargaining of the union.
Okay. Mr. Tripp?
Could we approve this with that change? Not okay. All right. So that's it. Tentative on that.
Tentative is tentative. That's the agreement. You can vote on it, you can put it back to the committee, send it back to the union, you can do whatever. Or take no action at all today, and I presume if you take no action today, that we will consider that a directive to return it to the union and see what happens.
Okay, Mr. Vickery first.
Mr. Chairman, I'm not part of that negotiating team. It's in their, it would be their responsibility to take action, but if they don't, I would make a motion to send it back to the union.
Okay.
I don't feel comfortable voting on it without the changes that the state's attorney indicated. That's, I sat on both sides, just so you know, I sat on both sides of the fence many years ago with Ford Motor Company, and both on the union side and on the company side. And if you don't have clear language, I want to tell you, you got problems.
All right, so there is a motion on the floor now to basically send it back to the union and work out language. Is there a second to that, made by Mr. Washington? Any questions or comments to the motion? Mr. Joel?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would have to vote in opposition to the motion because I believe that we owe the union the courtesy of an up and down vote, up or down vote on the original contract. So if we reject it, then we can go back and work out the differences in a compromise committee.
Okay. Any other comments, questions? Mr. McLaren?
Just for clarity's sake, thank you, Mr. Chairman, just for clarity's sake.
No, I don't want.
These things fixed.
Yeah.
Don't go that far.
Just for clarity's sake, what is the contract we're talking about here? About the original one or the amended one by the state's attorney that we're talking about sending back to the union? The amended one?
No, wait.
It'll be the contract, but it'll be work out whatever language that has been changed by the state's attorney's office. Any other questions? We have a motion to send back, or to work out, actually have the negotiating team work with the union to work out the contract language that has been presented by the state's attorney. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Motion carries. Under old business, everybody should have gotten a message that CTA is canceled for tomorrow. There were not enough issues on it that can be dealt with at the second meeting of the month. So, other old business, Ms. Hertzberger?
Just a question on that. We did request that the delegation agreement and the enterprise zone and TIF districts be discussed at the next planning and zoning meeting. Have those been, I mean, those are requests that we've made. Delegation agreement a couple of times, but the last meeting, planning zoning meeting, Stan made a request to put enterprise zone and TIF districts as a discussion on the agenda.
Okay, well, we'll move that forward with...
Make sure they get on the next one, please.
Mr. Manuel.
Thank you.
Anyway, any other old business? Any new business? Ms. Bernard?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Hang on just a second. Okay.
Thank you. Has the council given any directives as to what to do right now with the price of gas being so high? I was reading that several governments across the nation are going to 4-day work weeks, no idling policies for their squad cars, things like that. Do we have anything that's been issued or anybody coming up with some protocol that we can undertake right now to save some money?
I know it's been discussed at a couple different committees on different ways of handling vehicles, but nothing that I'm aware of right now. I mean, we're, you know,
Well,
because actually the ones that are going to be using the most fuel have to be working anyway. I mean, you're not going to cut the sheriff back to a 4-day work week. They got to be out on the road all the time anyway. So.
Well, no, but even to use the other employees with 4-day work weeks, that's what they're doing. And as far as one thing I see in this county a lot, I see squads idling all the time. My brother's a Chicago police officer, and I asked him about that. He said in Chicago, they're not allowed to idle their squad cars like that, keep them running. And so I think we need to look at something like that, because a car that idles for 30 seconds starts wasting a lot of gas.
Okay. Any other new business? Mr. Washington.
On the proposition put forward by KCCSI, I make a recommendation or make the motion that we send a consideration to this to the executive committee to do a study to look at this as a possibility.
Okay. It'll ultimately have to go to finance. Do you want to just start it in finance?
Well, we can start it in finance.
Yeah, we'll do that. Any other new business? Ms. McBride?
Second.
Second.
Oh, we don't need a motion. One thing I passed to the media today, I received this from the Illinois Housing Authority. They're going to have a homeowner outreach days. It's going to be Tuesday, June 17th out at KCC from 4 to 7 p.m. It is for homeowners who possibly may be having difficulty with their mortgage payments and how the state and other agencies may be able to help. So I have some flyers here. If you're interested in trying to distribute them around, please feel free to do so. And I know the media will do their part in it too. Thank you very much. So, motion to adjourn. We don't need executive session today, so a motion to adjourn made by Mr. James, seconded by Mr. Lear. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.